She only wanted a fair chance, a steady job to feed her child and a roof over their heads. But in a house of wealth and power, her every move was watched, her dignity tested in ways no one should endure. One quiet night, when she thought no one was looking, her actions revealed more about her soul than money ever could. What happened next would leave even the richest man speechless and force us all to question what true worth really means. Maria had worked in the wealthy household for nearly 2 years. To her, it wasn't just a job, it was survival. Each morning, she rose before the sun, made breakfast for her young son, and then left him in the care of a neighbor while she cleaned, scrubbed, and served for people who barely noticed her name. Still, she carried herself with quiet pride. She wanted her boy to see that dignity wasn't about riches. It was about how you lived, even when the world tried to look down on you. The mansion where she worked glittered with marble floors, polished glass, and gold-framed portraits. But beneath the shine, Maria always felt the weight of eyes on her, as if every step she took had to prove her worth. She reminded her son to stay polite, to never touch what wasn't his, and to be careful, always careful. To the family, she was invisible. But one man in that house had begun to notice her and her son, not with kindness, but with suspicion. And one evening, he devised a test that would not only decide Maria's future, but reveal a truth no amount of money could silence. The test began on a night that seemed ordinary. The family had gone out for dinner, leaving Maria to finish cleaning the kitchen while her son quietly played in the corner. She thought it was just another shift, another long evening of work. What she didn't know was that the billionaire had returned early, slipping upstairs without a word. He lay across his bed pretending to sleep, waiting for the moment he believed would expose her and her child. Maria moved carefully through the house. Every plate stacked, every floor swept. It wasn't just cleaning, it was survival. She had heard the whispers before. Watch her closely. They can't be trusted. Words meant to remind her of her place. She ignored them, holding her son's hand when the weight of them grew too heavy. But tonight, her boy's eyes lingered on a toy car that had been left in the hallway. Shiny, expensive, the kind of thing he'd never had. His little fingers hovered over it. He looked at his mother, then back at the toy. The billionaire upstairs watched through half-shut eyes, waiting for what he thought was inevitable. Maria noticed. Her heart tightened. She knelt beside her son and whispered something only he could hear. He paused, then pulled his hand back, tucking it against his chest. Instead of taking the toy, he walked past it, his small steps echoing with restraint far beyond his years. Still, the test wasn't over. In the living room, a wallet sat on the table, left there on purpose. Its edge peeked out, a trap waiting to be sprung. The billionaire held his breath, convinced this was the moment that would expose her. Maria's son saw it. He froze, torn between temptation and the lessons his mother had drilled into him. "We don't touch what isn't ours," she had told him countless times. But the wallet seemed to glow under the lamp, daring him to reach. Maria's voice cut through the silence, soft but steady. "Come, mi hijo. It's time to go." The boy turned his head, glanced one last time at the wallet, and then followed her toward the door. Upstairs, the billionaire's heart pounded, not with triumph, but with confusion. He had been certain that poverty bred dishonesty, that skin color determined worth. Yet what he had witnessed didn't fit his story. But as Maria prepared to leave, she noticed something else. The door she had locked earlier was ajar. A shadow moved at the top of the stairs. Someone had been watching all along, and in that moment, she realized this night wasn't about cleaning floors or keeping house. It was about something far more dangerous, proving her humanity in a world determined to strip it away. Maria froze at the sound of the creaking floor above. Her son clutched her hand tighter, sensing the shift in the air. And then, From the staircase, he appeared. The billionaire himself, descending slowly, his eyes fixed on them with a cold, piercing stare. He hadn't been sleeping. He hadn't trusted her. Every glance, every whispered order to keep an eye, had led to this moment. "Interesting," he said, his voice calm but laced with venom. "I've been watching. Your boy had his chances. The toy, the wallet, easy temptations. But I wonder, was it discipline or just fear of getting caught?" Maria's chest tightened. She wanted to speak, to defend her son, but the words caught in her throat. Her boy stood tall, silent, his small hand trembling in hers. The billionaire stepped closer, circling them like a predator. "People like you," he continued, "always find a way to prove me right. Maybe not tonight, but soon." His words weren't just an accusation. They were a sentence. A reminder that no matter how honest, how careful, how dignified, they would always be judged by the color of their skin, not the content of their character. Maria's eyes burned with unshed tears, but she refused to bow her head. Her son looked up at her, searching her face for strength. And in that moment, she knew this wasn't just about surviving a night in someone else's house. It was about showing her son how to stand tall, even when the world tried to break them. The room pulsed with silence, heavy and suffocating. The billionaire's smirk lingered, certain of his power. But what happened next would turn his certainty upside down and force him to confront a truth money could never buy. Maria stood in that silence, refusing to let the billionaire's words define her or her child. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. Instead, she took her son's hand, lifted her chin, and walked toward the door with a quiet strength that shook him more than any outburst could. The billionaire had expected failure. He had set traps, waiting to confirm the prejudices he carried like armor. But what he saw was something he could not explain away: honesty, restraint, and dignity in a child who had been given every reason to break. Maria left that house with nothing in her pockets, but everything intact in her spirit. And though the sting of his words stayed with her, so did the knowledge that her son had witnessed the truth, that character is not measured by wealth, but by integrity. For the billionaire, the test had failed, or perhaps it had revealed more than he was ready to face. Because the real lesson wasn't about Maria or her son. It was about him, about the way privilege can blind and how prejudice corrodes even the richest heart. This wasn't just Maria's story. It echoes through countless lives. Domestic workers overlooked, children doubted, families judged not by who they are, but by the color of their skin. And every time the question remains the same: how many more tests must they endure to prove their humanity? Racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through suspicion, through doubt, through traps laid in silence. But every act of dignity in the face of it becomes a quiet rebellion. So ask yourself, when the test comes, whether in silence or in public, will you be the one setting the trap or the one breaking the cycle?